Thank you for coming and welcome. How many of you have been to one of these that Jeff and I have done before? So about half of you, huh? Okay, good. So Jeff and I love doing these because it gives us an opportunity to have more of a discussion rather than all the constraints that we're normally under at a city council meeting. And there are many rules and laws that restrict us. But in this room, because there's just two of us up here, we can talk about anything. We can talk as long as we want on any subject. We can respond to anything that you say or ask us. So here are the ground rules. There are none. We're not going to limit you for time. You can speak as long as you want. You can comment on anything you want. You can ask us any question, and we will respond as honestly as we can, unless we're violating the law, and we'll let you know that. We'll let you know that we won't be violating the law.
Or the city attorney will stand up and tell us.
So, exactly. So, you also need to know that all of our department heads are here tonight. And they're here so that you can go to any subject you want, and we should be able to give you instant responses on pretty much anything. And they can come up to the mic and speak if we need to. So hopefully, if you want to speak or you think you might want to speak, if you'll fill out one of the cards, and we're going to just kind of take them as in the order that they came in. I think I forgot to introduce my colleague here. This is Mayor Pro Tem Jeff Coors.
Hey, everyone.
And I am a lowly councilman now, and I'm J.R. Roberts. And we are really excited you're here, and this is because I'm not rerunning for my council seat. This will be the last.
No, that's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
By the way, I wouldn't have expected less from you, Alan. Thank you. So this is going to be sad because this is our last one. So what I want to do now is I want to hand it over to Dr. Reddy, our city manager, who I'm sure most of you know, and he's going to give you a few updates and introduce our staff that's here tonight.
Thank you, members of council. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I would just like to let you know most all of our department heads are here, and instead of introducing everyone, I would just like all of our department heads, would you please stand so everyone can recognize you. So they're here. We're going to be here during the forum, and we'll be here a little afterwards to answer any of your specific questions. Thank you. But I do want to recognize one specific person who's a new face in the crowd who we've not met yet. He's brand new, a very important person. Danny, where are you? Danny DeSelms, our new Emergency Management Coordinator. So I'd like to introduce you formally to Danny. Thank you for joining the team. And Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman, we're ready to go.
Kick it off.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. So when we say no ground rules, we mean that, but we ask one thing of you. We ask that you be respectful of one another and be respectful of us and be respectful of the staff. And I have to warn you, we're not going to put any time limits on you, but what we have found is the audience, when they are done hearing you, they're going to let you know in no uncertain terms. So try to be somewhat, get to the point and be succinct, and we're going to be right there with you. But we want to give everybody a chance to ask their questions and to comment on things. And if we get into a lull, we will just fill in and we'll give you some updates on things that we think you might be interested in about developments and things that are going on in town, and we'll let you know about what we know on that. Anything you want to add?
No, let's go.
Okay.
Let's get it going.
So I'm just going to start calling names, and just come on up and just tell us your name, and you can fire right into your comment. The podium is right over here. And the reason we're way up front here, we'd much rather actually be closer to you, is because of camera angles. By the way, this is all being recorded. We're going to take back everything that you say. We're going to take it back to the whole city council and talk about it. And we also have the press here tonight as well, who's interested in what you have to say.
Right. And the camera facing the podium is the one you'll be on, so you're also being recorded. And this will also air on the city channel and channel 17. So just so folks know as they're speaking that they are being recorded.
So Ardeen Thompson. Hi.
I don't know if it's good or bad that I'm first.
Well, you don't have to be, but your
Oh,
card came up
That's
first.
fine.
Okay.
My name is Ardeen Thompson, and I'm the chairperson for ASENA. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Stand on your tiptoes.
First, we're concerned about the odor associated with proposed cannabis cultivation in aging facilities near our neighborhoods in Palm Springs. We would like to see the City Council create an appropriate zoning ordinance that respects and protects clean air in our neighborhoods and creates appropriate areas for growth and development of the cannabis industry. So do we move the cannabis cultivation manufacturing farther away from the neighborhoods in a green zone? Do we more stringently enforce the odor enforcement or odor ordinance when it is affecting our neighborhoods, golf courses, airport, air museum? And then second, it is important to us that city planning and zoning ordinances keep pace with industries moving into Palm Springs and put a cap on the number of cannabis cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution facilities so that we continue to have a variety of small businesses in our industrial areas. This will enable Palm Springs to have a consistent tax revenue and a very consistent employment base. Thank you.
Well, thank
Good
you,
timing.
Ardeen. I think there were some questions in there, but Jeff and I have already had 2 meetings today on cannabis, and maybe this would be a good moment to take and give you a little update. You want to start with that?
Sure. So we're in the process of working on a revised cannabis ordinance, and all of those issues are being discussed. Once we have a draft of it, which we're pretty close to, we're going to be sending it out, and we're going to have a stakeholders meeting, so people in the cannabis industry, residents, neighborhood groups can all participate and give us feedback on it before we bring it to council, because we really want to make sure we have that opportunity to get feedback. We actually met with a group from 1PS this morning regarding that. So on a couple points, one thing is the distance waivers, right? One way we do limit the number is through distance limitations, how far they have to be apart. One thing that was not in the original ordinance, which we want to fix, is that we have those distance limitations in industrial zones the same way we do in commercial zones. We have residential neighborhoods right next to industrial zones, and we want to make sure we're, one, addressing, there are 2 types of businesses, the ones that can cause odor and the ones that don't. So for the ones that can cause odor, which is cultivation and most but not all manufacturing, and there are different numbers, letters that the state assigns to the ones that do potentially cause odor, that we have greater distance from residential, that we have distance requirements for all cannabis businesses from one another in industrial zones, just like we currently do in commercial zones. So those are all moving forward. When it comes to odor, we have now an odor control expert. The number of complaints and issues have gone down dramatically, but we shouldn't have any odor problems. And so what we're proposing is, first of all, we now have code enforcement and we have these nasal meters that can detect the odor. In addition to doing weekly checks throughout the city of existing licensees, we're also going out randomly through code enforcement to check for smell, and anytime there is a complaint, and if you have one, you need to let code enforcement know. They will go and check for any odor. Everyone has to have an odor expert approved plan, and if there is a violation and they're not following that plan, we're going to have very steep penalties, including suspension starting at $10,000 for a violation. So what we want to do is, similar to vacation rentals, is strongly incentivize people to follow the rules, and if they don't, there'd be hefty fines and revocation of permits on those. But I think the distance requirements will also address the issue that we want a diversity of businesses, and that's really important, both in our commercial and our industrial zones, because we want our neighborhood commercial to have, dry cleaners and yoga studios and grocery stores and all of those things, and we want to make sure we do that in our industrial zones as well. So that's all moving forward. We will get that out to everyone with enough time to come to a stakeholders meeting to give us input on it before we will bring anything to council as well.
And Jeff pretty much covered everything on that. I would just add that this is a top priority for us. and we're moving quickly to bring this ordinance or this revision of the ordinance back quickly. Our number one focus is odor, and we've found that there's a lot more we can do now than we could do in the past, and we have a plan, and you will see that plan come forward very quickly.
The other thing is we are looking at green zones. We have to make sure that they can work. There are, that there's electricity, right, sewer, everything, and we're in the process of studying that. But we want to actually incentivize people to move into the green zones once we can get those created as well. So I just
And
did cover
green
that.
zones, by the way,
Yeah.
by definition, are pieces of land that are far, far away from residential or even commercial. They're areas of land up by the freeway. But right now, we don't know if those can work because they may not have sewer systems, and they may not, because of the county, be allowed to do septic systems. So we don't know how well the green zones are going to work, but we're focusing on that as an idea. Zaino Mizani.
Hi, my name is Zaino Mizani.
You can pull that up or even out if you want to, Zaino.
I'm here for 10 years in Palm Springs. I have a company called Mizani Media. It took us 10 years to be here, to build a platform called madeinpalmsprings.com. Technically, this platform is to let the businesses engage with their customers. And we ask the information, so especially Jeff promoting Uniquely Palm Springs, this platform allows all the small businesses, not only they can promote themselves, also they can engage with their customers. And I know the beauty about this platform, since Palm Springs is such a destination city around the world, we build it multiple languages, so all the international people can, not only they can read their own languages, and also they can engage with all the small businesses. So I send the information to you and as well as Bureau of Tourism, and I just want to know, is any way we can give you a personal presentation, because this platform not only is already tested in 2,000 businesses, and is also in 79 countries, is already reached to the platform already 350 businesses already using this platform, including Palm Spring Pride as well.
Yeah, and I've looked at the site, but I'd be happy to meet with you. Shoot me an email.
All right.
Yeah,
That's
anytime.
just, I mean, I sent the information to Mary Jo, to Bureau of Tourism, so I said, not only this allow them, it's very affordable, and we're trying to make it very simple. Not only, and some of the already noticed, some of our clients is already here, including you, Promote Tropical, which is already using this platform, which has since January 1st already reached to 350,000 visitors, at the average of 40,000 visitors every month. They're visiting the website as well. Thank you.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And just for folks who don't know, Uniquely Palm Springs, which was mentioned, so as a program we launched through the Economic Development Business Retention Subcommittee with the Bureau of Tourism and the Chamber of Commerce, that's focused on promoting and helping to get the word out for local, only in Palm Springs businesses, right? One of the things that makes us such a great place to visit for people, but a great place for all of us to live, is that we're not all chain stores. We have these great, unique businesses. So the Bureau of Tourism is doing videos, putting them out, sending out all of those messages. So if you have a unique, only in Palm Springs business, and I know several right here who have been in touch with the Bureau of Tourism, I know some have videos already, please reach out to the Bureau of Tourism or reach out to me and I'll connect you, because we're all fine that we have some great national brands here, but we want to keep Palm Springs unique. And so we put money into the budget to promote our special, unique Palm Springs businesses.
Great. Also, two other things. If you prefer to not come up to the podium, we can run a microphone to you. And also, if you're shy to come up to the podium, you can write a question on one of these and send it up to Anthony, and we'll get that question, and we can ask it and answer it for you. Okay? Richard Curtis. Or Richmond, I'm sorry.
Hi. I have lived here, I'm in my 18th year here now, and I brought this up at the last meeting. I actually have 3 quick points, and I will keep them very brief. Number 1, I'd like to direct to the Chief of Police. You can't hear me? Sorry, sounds like I'm pretty loud. Okay.
I think everybody can hear you. Chief, you can hear him, can't you?
Oh, great. This is going to make me really unpopular, I'm sure. But I can't pull up to any stoplight anywhere in Palm Springs without either the person next to me on this side or that side holding their phone and looking at it.
It's true.
And if we have a law in California that says you're not allowed to use your phone in your car, people should get tickets for it. And I don't see anybody enforcing the law. So please, it's dangerous, and I see people driving, looking at their phones all the time, and I don't see anybody getting any kind of penalty for it. So please, that's point number one. By the way, the police do a great job keeping us safe. So,
Yeah, we can do that.
so number two, 2 and 3 are connected. I think that as Palm Springs becomes more of a popular destination with more and more people coming, things as a tourist destination happens, like in Hawaii, things get expensive. And locals are forced to pay tourist rates. Hawaii has a great program about this called Kama'aina. And if you're a Kama'aina, you pay lower rates. If you're local, you pay a lower rate. And almost all the businesses in Hawaii have a Kama'aina rate. And I think Palm Springs should institute an incentive program, or at least a encouragement program for local businesses to charge local people a slightly lower rate than they would charge the tourists who come here. The Ace Hotel restaurant, Kings Highway, already the other day I had dinner there, 10% off for being local. Great program, keep us, locals from having to pay prices that would be normally paid to people who are visiting our city who have to pay, anyway.
It's a great idea to encourage folks, and there have been other places, particularly hotel restaurants, that have done that with a bigger discount in July and August. Although, as anyone in town this weekend knows, we're busier in July and August. But it's a great idea, and if we could come up with a way to do that and work with the business community on that, I think, and encourage it. Obviously, it's voluntary, but I think would really help those businesses too during slow season.
It is a great idea, and I think
I really like that.
the history is that businesses who do that benefit.
Yeah.
And they get more locals specifically going to them for that. And there are things that we can do as a city to incentivize that. We can
really good.
promote businesses that do that. So it's actually a good idea and something we can pursue. And I think we can do that by adding sugar to the pot,
Yeah.
by coming up with ideas that will help small businesses that are willing to work more closely with the community. So thank
In
you.
Hawaii, it works great, and they've had it, like for 50 years or something. As soon as Hawaii became a tourist place and they started charging a lot of money for everything in Hawaii, locals started screaming about the prices, and they gave a local rate.
Smart.
It's a great idea, and
idea.
it's
Thank you.
something,
Finally achieving now that the shopping mall is gone and replaced and all that stuff. And I brought this up at the last meeting, and I was assured that, we are now putting the brakes on the amount of promotion and development to bring people to Palm Springs, because over the 17, 18 years I've been here, and a lot of my friends have been here, we've noticed when the town is full, when all the snowbirds are here, and when there might be an event, even a small event in town, you can't park anywhere, you can't go to Ralph's, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't, every stoplight, you have to stop twice at most of the big stoplights in town. The town can't handle the capacity of the people who are here. It stresses the town's ability to take care of all the people who are here. And I was assured that we're pulling back on the go Palm Springs, come, the hyper development, bring people to Palm Springs that I've seen all the 20 years almost I've been here. There's been this, we need to attract people to Palm Springs. We've succeeded. But since the last meeting, I live right here in the corner of Amato and Hermosa. When there's an event at the convention center, the parking goes all the way to Hermosa and up Hermosa to Alejo.
sure.
When I drive from my house west on Alejo, I get to the Andaz Hotel being built, more people coming. When I go west on Amato, the Dream Hotel right across the street is yet to be built. When I go down Hermosa, the street that you just built down the street there between Tockwitz and Baristo, which was just put down, was dug up and closed off for a month while they start construction on another set of condos right there between Tockwitz and Baristo, right off Hermosa, across from the new COD temporary campus. I go left on Baristo, 2 blocks, and I get to the new development that's, the Vibe or whatever it's called, and all I see is more people coming to Palm Springs. And we're packed. And the town that I've come to love is getting to be too full of people and too full of people coming to visit. And I work in tourism. I'm happy for the people, but we're not managing it very well, and our city's stressed. The actual physical ability of the city to handle the people that are coming seems to be overstressed and makes it unpleasant to be a local. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. And one thing I'd like to suggest is that if we are developing a parking issue around the convention center, if the residents are being affected, get together with your neighbors and come see us. We are definitely willing to look at that because we can put in parking restrictions and so forth that will keep the visitors to the convention center from moving into the residential neighborhoods. And we do that all over the city. So that's something we can definitely solve for you and your neighbors. Just come talk to us about it. Give Marcus a call at the city, or the assistant city manager, and he has been doing this for many, many years, and that is solving tourists parking in residential neighborhoods, and he can help you with that.
And actually, just a little update, since it's in another subcommittee. There is, PS Resorts, working with the city, is paid for a parking study that's including neighborhoods that are impacted by tourism and how we handle the parking. And the plan was to have 3 big community meetings in September, and then the tribe announced a 10,000-seat arena. And so we said, okay, we need to take that into account, because any of us who live within a 15-minute walk of that, we're going to need to look at permit parking. We're going to need to look at 4-hour free parking downtown means every spot's going to be taken by the arena, which is going to hurt other businesses. So that is getting restarted, and we're working to get someone high level with the tribe as part of that, because we're going to have to figure those issues out. Not that they've told anyone yet.
We don't know yet because we haven't seen plans for that.
Right.
We could list a number of things that we're doing. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it,
Yeah.
but know that we are aware of, growth is happening. One thing we always need to keep in mind, we share Palm Springs with another country, and that other country is the tribe. So we control 50% of the land and what happens, and they control 50% of the land and what happens. And both sides have to respect that. So yes, we're definitely going through growth. The economy, I don't have to tell you how well the economy's going. I think we all know that that's going to change, and we'll probably see a natural slowdown in development when that occurs. But know that we are very aware of traffic and parking. Having Indian Canyon go 2 ways now is one of the solutions we're hoping that will lighten up some of the traffic downtown and give more opportunities to get across town for residents. But thank you for your points. Paul, you're up. Yeah.
Move this up a little bit. Thanks for letting us come and talk with you. This is always a great event. The first one I want to talk about, many of you have already heard me talk about before. I'm going to fill in a little bit of blanks for the audience who don't know this. With working with so many of the neighborhoods here in the city and potential neighborhoods, one of the things we became aware of is we have a lot of mobile home parks in the city, and some are really well run. Others, sadly, I can say, are not. And we have some challenging situations in some of them, including some pretty serious health and safety violations. What I learned through this process is that the city doesn't have authority in these because they're state-run. And the state has 6 inspectors, 2 for Northern California, 2 for Central, 2 for Southern, and they pretty much don't have any support staff. So it doesn't take much to figure out what that leads to, and that is some real challenges for those inspectors to deal with anything but the most egregious situations. So we've learned that this is the case that our code compliance officers don't have authority, but a new twist and surprise came about recently doing some research, and I found out that some other cities in California actually do have authority in their mobile home parks. I had asked Dr. Reddy if it was possible to get a durable joint powers agreement with the state as a possible solution, and maybe that's not even necessary, because what I've learned is that some city inspectors in some cities in California do have authority and exercise that authority in the state mobile home parks for both federal and state health and safety violations and codes, as well as some of their local ones. And to my surprise, here was the big surprise I got recently, is one of our neighboring cities does that. And that's Rancho Mirage. It turns out they have a dedicated inspector. I don't know exactly who to talk to, but maybe you could find out from some of your colleagues from Rancho Mirage by what mechanism they exert that authority, and that could possibly help us solve some of the squalor conditions that exist in a few of our mobile home parks, because that's really important, and I know how important affordable housing is to the city and how we lack it, and that's part of it, and we don't want to abandon what's already here, but support them, and people shouldn't have to live in some of these truly questionable conditions, which I was shocked to learn about. So I just wanted to share that. And then on another quick one, I'm going to use the platform to educate a little bit. Helium. It turns out that our planet only has 10 years supply remaining, less than 10 years supply remaining of helium. And there's only 2 repositories of helium that are actively mined in the world, and that's in the US and Qatar. Qatar is banned from exporting, and helium isn't just used in balloons. It's also used in critical applications, such as MRIs require it. Everything from MRIs to many other types of research to the Hadron Collider in Switzerland. Without helium, they can't operate. Maybe even a suggestion would be considering an ordinance in the city to set an example, no sale and use of non-essential use of helium in our city. It's just a thought, a consideration. So there are 2 other possible reservoirs in the world that are in such logistically challenging locations that they haven't even been able to confirm whether they have a substantial reservoir to draw from. So I thought that might be something we could consider to set an example, and it's important that we all learn about this. I recently learned about it myself and was surprised, and I'm not buying any helium balloons anymore. So I just wanted to share that.
Good to know.
Then my last item I want to mention is well, plastic straws, styrofoam containers, gas-powered leaf blowers, I support all of them. They're really good, admirable causes. I'm glad you pushed forward on them. One question I have, which is, I'm setting this up for you know what, how many people have died from secondhand gas-powered leaf blowers? How many people have died from secondhand straws? How many people have died from styrofoam containers? How many people have died from secondhand smoke? According to the CDC, it's between 75,000 and 100,000 non-smokers every year in the United States alone. There was a mayor of Palm Springs with the first name of Steve, who I won't mention much. That was the first person that Bob and I pursued to present the issue of non-smoking ordinances here in Palm Springs. We've worked with state and city and local organizations. We've worked with city council, and we're still not there. There's a lot of work to be done on the no smoking ordinances, and this is a matter of life and death. We really need to do something. A quarter of a century ago, my husband Bob and I pursued this in Pasadena. It was surprisingly relatively easy back in the 90s to do this. And we feel like there's some malfunctioning flux capacitor at the pass up here when we come into town that's putting us back a quarter of a century because we don't have that here. I'd really like to see what we can do together to bring this to City Council's agenda and get it passed. We really need a variety of non-smoking ordinances here in Palm Springs. If we don't, it starts to make us look like our expressed concerns for many of these other important issues really aren't genuine. And I don't want us to look like that. So maybe we can do something. Thanks for your help.
Thank you, Paul. And Paul, the smoking thing is an issue, and it is an issue we've talked about, and I think it is something that's coming down the line. Obviously, there would be a tremendous resistance to having a no smoking policy in the city, but I'm sure there's areas we can look at within the city that could make a difference, and I'm certainly open to that. And your helium fact is fascinating. I've never heard that.
I'll never sound like Mickey Mouse again. So sad.
So, but you know what, Paul? I think if people knew that,
Yeah.
and we could slowly maybe have people quit wasting it in things like balloons or making Mickey Mouse voice, well, I suggest you do a Valley Voice on that with the
a great
paper, and maybe start there and online and start to educate people slowly, because I think we could all give up helium balloons pretty easily.
Yep.
So I'm fascinated. You learn.
Yeah.
That's why we love doing this. We learn a lot. Lonnie Miller, come on up.
Hi, and Paul, you might be interested that actually helium balloons is right up on the top of litter in our desert, and the top next to plastic bags. Mayor Pro Tem Jeff Kors, Council Member Roberts, thank you so much for having this. I think you're really modeling excellence and leadership tonight by having this. My name is Lonnie Miller. I'm a commissioner on the Sustainability Commission and community advisor on the Desert Community Energy. However, tonight I represent neither the commission nor the DCE, but rather myself as a citizen of Palm Springs. I respectfully request that City Council bring heightened awareness and communication and support to the sustainability programs in our community. This is personal. Turns out 2 days ago, I announced my completion of 33 years of active medical practice and 12 years of expert witness work in my field. My goal now is to fully pivot my focus, strengths, and energies to my long-held personal mission of stewarding sustainability in Palm Springs in the Coachella Valley. This year, the city hired a smart, young, hardworking sustainability office manager, much to the relief of the sustainability commissioners, and the hope that their projects would be supported and deployed. We now have a new chair in the respected Roy Clark, and we have 3 new commissioners, all enthusiastic to join the team and step up to the plate. But the commission went through a hiatus in leadership prior to this. Momentum was lost. That condition, perhaps, in part, resulted in the sustainability's reactive approach to the myriad issues presented to it by the public. In the meantime, over the past 4 years, the mayor and city council members became strong advocates for sustainability, and especially so since our new council members came on board. However, in my view, there is a disconnect in two-way communication and awareness between the city council and the commission. The commissioners are working, but the city council does not seem to be aware of what the commissioners are doing. City council dissatisfaction is implied, not directly, but through the opaque channels of the city staff. I want direct support from the city council. I mean direct support. And yes, encouragement. The scale and urgency of the climate crisis requires proactivity. It requires a programmatic change. We must change our thinking from incremental to transformative. For Palm Springs to lead in sustainability, it will take more than a commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lonnie, thank you. You know, I would just say quickly on this that we hear you, and I can speak for myself here that I'm very excited about what sustainability is doing, our Sustainability Commission, and we know how dedicated you are. In fact, Jeff and I actually do the interviews, as you know, for that commission, and we walk away exhilarated about the talent that we see. And, you know, I know you probably know this, Lonnie, but we often will have joint sessions with the City Council and other boards and commissions, and we're probably way overdue to have one with sustainability. So Jeff and I can we can turn to our city manager, who's busily writing right now,
Say, "Schedule that,
and
please."
say, please
Yeah.
schedule a joint session with sustainability, so we can hear what you're doing and have a dialogue like this, but with sustainability and the city council. And thank you for bringing that to us.
Yeah. And just briefly, for folks who don't know DCE, and I think there are 3 sustainability commissioners here who are all on the new.
Yeah, raise your hand.
Among the 5 from Palm Springs on the advisory committee, so David Friedman and Carl Baker, as well as Lonnie, who we appointed. I'm vice chair of that. So it's a new program that we're doing through CVAG that will allow the 3 cities who are part of it, Palm Springs, Palm Desert, and Cathedral City, to purchase energy and deliver it with no 20% return to shareholders. The money actually stays for sustainable purposes and to lower rates if they go up. And our council unanimously voted, and there is a change in the last 2 years because it's now unanimous instead of 3-2, to become the first city in, I think, anywhere in Riverside and San Bernardino County to move, which will happen next year, to 100% carbon-free power as the default option for every customer in the city of Palm Springs, business, residential, and the city. So that's going to, of course, a huge change and really important, and I really just want to call the 3 folks out who are now on the advisory committee helping us and doing that work to make sure we educate the community as this moves forward. So thank the 3 of you. It's a really exciting project for the city.
I think most of you know we have, I think it's 15 boards and commissions, and they work as hard as we do, and they're all volunteer, and we get amazing talent. We are always humbled and grateful, and frankly, we couldn't do our job, and the staff could not do their job without these boards and commissions who help us. And Patrick, who you mentioned, by the way, is sitting right here, our Director of Sustainability. He's here tonight. Yeah. Give Patrick a little love, yeah. Robert Finley, come on up, wherever you are. There you are, right in front.
Gee, surprised at seeing me here?
I'd be surprised if you aren't. We'd miss you.
I didn't prepare for this, and what I had intended to speak on, I decided against. However,
You know you can say anything to us, Red.
now this is something for another time.
Okay.
But there's 2 things that I want to bring up just real quick. Are there any plans, since they're building this building over here and everything's blocked off, are there any plans to, how should I put this, do something about the damn parking back here? So to get to this room, you got to walk a half mile from the nearest parking lot. You know, it would be appreciated if we could get some parking closer to this building. The other thing is, with the tribe building their new venue and Indian Canyon being changed to 2-way, I can think, well, okay, I was caught in the traffic after the Christmas parade last year. And there's a word that describes that will describe what's going to happen the first time the tribe has an event at their venue. And it's a word from my Army days, and I can't use it in mixed company, but I think you know what it is. And, you know, has anyone considered the ramifications of this and the continued change on Indian Canyon? And is the PD getting ready to deal with the mess that they're going to have in another, year and a half after that venue's finished?
So, yes, so to answer your question, we're thinking about it. Until we actually see a plan from the tribe for the arena and it actually becomes more of a reality, there's not a whole lot we can do. What I can tell you, and you already know this, the city has a long, successful history with the tribe and development. And it doesn't benefit the tribe to create gridlock and parking nightmares for their own venue. So they have a very able development staff, just like we do in planning, and we work closely with them. And in the past, we have always worked together to solve these kind of problems. You know, this is the kind of stuff I sit up at night thinking about. And I was thinking about the fact that we're making Indian Canyon 2 ways, and I was thinking about how other cities sometimes turn traffic on a main thoroughfare to get people in and out of a community. And I was thinking, we probably have some solutions already. But I have faith that from history that the tribe will work closely with us on dealing with the possible parking and the possible traffic. I'm not going to pussyfoot around. I'm not happy the arena's this close to town. I'd be much happier to see the arena closer to the freeway and out of town. We just don't get a choice in that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we always do. We're going to sit down with the tribe and try to work it out. With respect to parking here closer to home or closer to this building, you should know that along with where we took the parking away with the Dream Hotel, part of the Dream Hotel agreement is they're building how many spaces for us?
Right done. Those are the ones across Caballeros, which was the complaint, right?
Right. But we're getting how many spaces back, David, underneath the building, underneath the hotel?
None. At the Andes,
At the Andes.
not the Dream.
Okay, okay. So we have the parking lot behind the building here, and I think that we will be considering that parking in the future if we need to double it, or how we need to handle more parking here at the convention center as we have need to do that.
Yeah. And just one thing on the arena for folks to know. So, I mean, we found out I think an hour before everyone else found out, because we got sent the press release, I think, before it was released. But the tribe has started the process. They asked for comments about what should be included in their environmental study. The city did submit what we wanted, and of course, parking and traffic and support for public safety are at the top of our list. Once they then release the study, there'll be time for the public to provide input. They'll do a big public meeting. I think that's going to end up being December. And it will be on our agenda, so staff and the council, we can put our comments in as well. And those are high, high priorities. They expect it to be done probably about 2 years from now for the hockey season in 2 years. So we do have time, but time moves quickly, as we all know. So once we have their plans around parking and traffic, we can actually start weighing in and commenting, and it's a really important issue, so thanks for raising it.
They seem to develop a little faster than we do, so we're on high alert to work with them as soon as we can on these issues. I don't know, Flynn or staff, have they reached out at all to the city in their planning process yet? We haven't heard any word on this. Marcus or Flynn, do you want to give us a little update on that, if there is one?
We're going to ask Flynn to comment. He's
He's
the
our,
point person.
this is our planning director, Flynn Fagg, if you've never met him.
As Mayor Pro Tem Kors indicated, the tribe did indicate to us that they were starting their environmental review process. We were able to comment on the things that we would like them to study. As was indicated, traffic is a concern of ours, as well as parking and other issues related to the adjacent uses. The planning department from the tribe will work closely with us as they go through that environmental review process. So yes, they have reached out to us, and we will continue to work with them to voice our concerns about the project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Flynn. Okay, next up is Jay Massaro. You're coming up, Alan. Don't get nervous. I have you in my stack. Hi, Jay.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for letting me speak.
Of course.
My name is Jay Massaro, and I've lived in Asina for about the last 18 months. And the subject I want to talk about is the Air Museum and their morphing into a nightclub. Now, first of all, when we were here last year, I called the police department when the noise was going on, and they apparently sent somebody out there and they got the noise reduced. Now, last month, we left town because we knew it was going to be loud, but all our friends and neighbors said it was deafening. So when I got back, I called the police department. I said, can't something be done about the noise level over at the Air Museum when they're running Splash House? He said, well, you have to call the city about that. So why is the police department telling me to call the city about enforcing an ordinance? I'm sure the city has a noise ordinance that restricts the amount of noise somebody can put out. If I put a 40-piece orchestra in my backyard and start blasting out music, I'm sure the police would be there in about 15 minutes, tell me to quiet down or shut it down. So why don't they do that to the Air Museum? Now, they do 4 events a year. My understanding, they want to expand that. More splash houses. And then they want to bring in the White Party next year. That's 30,000 people. What's next? They're going to bring in Burning Man or Coachella and put 100,000 over there? Put them on the runway, let them climb on the airplanes? This is out of control. The city council needs to take care of its residents. You can't always favor the business interests. We live here, we pay huge amounts of taxes, and we need you to take care of us. If we call the police and complain about noise, they need to go over there and get them into compliance. I don't understand what the problem is.
So first of all, if you bring a 40-piece orchestra to your house, will you invite me? But
I was just kidding.
I think we'll hand this to David.
Sure, and I think, yeah.
David,
Sort of.
do you mind responding to this?
I would note that what's always been important to council is nothing is more important than our citizens' individual quiet enjoyment of your home. Now, what that gets demonstrated and how that manifests in policies that we have to deal with. So, for example, take vacation rentals. What council has tried to do is find the balance. I mean, spend hours and hours in public meetings to come up with a regulatory scheme that you can allow vacation rentals and still maintain peace and quiet in your neighborhood. The same for the noise ordinance. The noise ordinance has gone through several iterations over the years, and right now council is looking at it again with regard specifically to the Air Museum. You're right, all of that is illegal, no question about it. The question has become, in the policy and in summary fashion, are we going to allow these events or not? So as a tourist community, council has made the decision to allow them on a limited basis, but only if we can mitigate those noise issues. And I would just like to share with you, we've done a significant amount of work to do that, requiring sound curtains, monitors, all those things. And we're sort of in an experimental phase, I would suggest. So City Council now is in the point of reviewing those noise ordinances, in reviewing the effects of these events, and they're very much open to your input. It's important they hear it, but the goal has been, obviously, if we can, we've got to find the balance so the people aren't disturbed. So that's sort of a general answer to it, and I would then give it back to the subcommittee to kind of take it
Well, the
from
one thing
there.
I do want to say, because we're not privy to that, because the council members on the noise and event ordinance are council members Middleton and Holstage, so we don't know what they're going to propose yet. I do understand they're going to have a big public meeting to get input from the community on what they're working on. I don't know if that's been scheduled yet.
Yes, so in the city attorney,
Okay.
they're drafting just some ideas in an ordinance. It's going to then start to be circulated with stakeholders and residents, and then ultimately it will come to council for several meetings. But I would also note that with regard to the Air Museum, we're very focused on that because you're right, we've had significant problems. We've had some improvements, significant improvements, but I don't think we're where we need to be yet. And so when we talk about this noise ordinance and future events, clearly we're going to be reviewing what's happened and what the concerns are of the residents.
And when that stakeholder meeting happens, although we may not be able to be there, because of the Brown Act, can you make sure we get it out to residents, especially in areas where there have been complaints, so they know they can come and weigh in with the subcommittee?
Indeed, and especially in the Ascena area as it pertains to the Air Museum.
Great, thank you.
Okay, one other quick point. I was in the Air Force for 26 years, and so I know the Air Museum is violating the charter that they were given when the Air Force gave them those display aircraft. I've contacted the Pentagon, and I've requested an investigation, and if they find out the Air Museum is not fulfilling its charter, the Air Museum will have to return at their own expense all those aircrafts to the Air Force. And so I'm working on that, and I know they're guilty.
Thank you, Jay.
I'm just going to come up on this issue because I beg to differ with you, David, and I have a lot of respect, and we've gotten help. When Splash House started, they started off doing 10 to 4 I think it was to 4 in the morning, now it's 10 to 2. The issue isn't the noise level, the issue is the sound waves. The sound waves, because of the air currents, bounce in different directions, they hit the desert sun. There are actually people in this room, and I'm not one of them, whose houses shake so badly they can't stay in them. When that goes on, they leave town, but the people who can't leave town are the people with small children that are living in those homes being shaken, some of the elderly people, and it is on nights when people, maybe coming home from work. It is difficult. It isn't that we don't support the Air Museum, because we do, we love having it there, but the question is finding a solution to the bass vibrations that are making it difficult, not just for our neighborhood, but many neighborhoods. I think at one time when I talked to you about it, you said the last one was okay. It actually wasn't until 100 people called the police. The police chief has been probably the savior of people somewhere around midnight and gone in and was capable of shutting it down. But Golden Voice, I know, and I like them, but they say they can't please their crowd without those bass vibrations, and that's what's hard in a residential neighborhood. And it's not just us, it's people, depending on the wind, it will go all the way down past Sunrise. It'll go out to Cathedral City, and it'll go out in different directions. So when I look at the posts on Nextdoor, they're not just our neighborhood. And I do think there's a fix. I think 1PS was working on a fix in terms of bass vibrations. It's not NIMBY, it's just people can't stay in their house at night.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And obviously, we're going to hear from our subcommittee with the noise ordinance, and hopefully we'll have some of those fixes that you're talking about. Alan, you're up.
Since I was the second one here, now everyone knows officially, do not play cards with J.R. Roberts. I'm an avid card player, and I dare not see you at the table. That's not something, anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, Mr. Reddy, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I don't do that on purpose, contrary to popular belief. You're concerned about the quiet enjoyment of our homes. You allowed 3 criminals to terrorize me for 2 or 3 years, and I will name them so everyone is warned. The caregiver from hell, Rene Perla, he's still, since the police couldn't bother to pick him up, namely corrupt Sergeant Matt Beard, posing as a caregiver. That is my point, sir, and it's none of your damn business. Mr. Roberts?
Well, again, I'm going to ask you all to be respectful of each other, but remember, Alan, if you go down a rabbit hole and the audience doesn't want to hear it, they're going to speak up.
Well, there's other things I haven't wanted to hear. I mean, I don't speak out just because I don't want to hear it.
Okay, so Alan, why don't you go ahead and finish up what you want to tell us?
Oh, you don't want to hear about crime? You're just one more person drunk on the Kool-Aid.
So Alan, that's not respectful. You want to stay focused up here?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, we have a big fat crime problem here, whether anybody wants to talk about it or not. And one of those crime problems are just that. That is the scourge of the city and the scourge of the valley, okay? Now, the latest one I know murdered was a poor woman up on Pico, around there, okay? Now, since then, this this spate of murders, is, I guess, drugs. It's anybody's guess, right? Sorry you don't want to hear about it. Rene Perla, caregiver from hell, his cousin Cesar Cortez, brutally assaulting me. That's hardly peace and enjoyment in my own home. And since nothing was done about that, it devolved into the next three, into the current travesty, the embezzlement of my home. Typically, people are charged and indicted for things like this. And then you, Mr. Roberts, and everybody mentions the BIA sooner or later. Mr. Mayor says, oh, they're not our neighbors, they're our roommates. Well, you'd never know it in my case. You spit in their face with a chain of fraud that could not possibly close another escrow. Because, in fact, in this course of embezzlement, there never was an escrow, okay? So you look ridiculous at the BIA, and you look ridiculous in Riverside. And now that you've brainwashed Mr. Ballinger of going down the same Kool-Aid path, okay, now he looks ridiculous. Best and Krieger is spinning about it. And again, problems in River City, okay? Those are facts. They're just facts, okay? Let's see. Well, I guess that, thank you, facts. Thank you. The other thing you don't get at the end of the day, and how you hardly see a real estate agent here, believe it or not, it's a disclosure. We have to disclose it. Where in God's name could you live with a population as small as this, with the number of murders that we've had? I mean, you know, I'm hitting the deck at Wells Fargo with the 4 guns or knives across the street at B of A. On, hey, guys, Kool-Aid people, street fair night, Thursday. And then a week later is a botched raid on the hotel room. The bullets flying through the wall. I mean, thank God we're not burying another cop or two. Or a member of the public. In the room next door, the guest was nearly hit. I mean, you know, it's been a complete nightmare. Does it do me any good to tell you how many perfect strangers and or people I know on the periphery walk up to me at Starbucks or at the Staples Copy Center and thank me? Staples Copy Center has come up in the courtroom and the depot. This city is lawless, okay? Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for being kind enough to realize you are no city council person. You have acted like a 6th grade bully to me in public. And the other problem, thank you, the other problem with that is public is public. And what both you and Ms. Middleton fail to realize, the public is watching you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worthy. Thank you. Okay, Jocelyn Kane. All right, guys, let's bring it back up here. Yeah. Jocelyn, you can take a breath if you want.
Are you handing out any samples?
Everybody free.
Yeah, Jocelyn, if you have any samples
Samples?
from what you do, we'd very much appreciate it right now.
They'll get that soon enough. So I just wanted to actually mention a couple of things before my typical talking about cannabis. But one is I wanted to thank you guys for reinstating, I guess we'd call it the Administrative Appeals Board, of which I'm a member. And so we got some training, and hopefully we'll keep going, and it'll be good. I wanted to also, again, and I've done this before, offer my assistance. I know you're not the subcommittee, but as far as the noise ordinance is concerned, I spent 15 years running the Entertainment Commission in the city of San Francisco, and we've had to deal with large events like Metallica at ballparks and AC/DC, you know, in open air arenas. And so I've got some expertise, and there's other people in the city that I know some of you know who can assist for sure,
Jocelyn,
in the
just-
methodology.
On that, David, can you just make sure you talk to Jocelyn about that, because she's offered it at a council meeting, I mentioned that the other day, and take her up on her very generous offer to, because she is an expert and is willing to help us out on this, we should take her up on her generosity, so thank you. So, but if you
problem.
guys could connect, because
Yeah, you
David
bet.
can get you connected.
Absolutely. So lastly, of course, I'm here also with my CVCAN hat, representing the Coachella Valley Cannabis Alliance Network. I just want to establish that we hear the residents, the industry is aware of the concerns, and we're working super hard with the subcommittee. We're really looking forward to the draft of the revisions. And we would like to come up with a way that the residents or 1PS or however we do it could meet with the industry directly and feel like it was informational and positive and not confrontational. And maybe you guys could assist with that, because sometimes it's talking around each other and over each other, and the industry is listening, and they do not want to upset residents, and they do not want to violate the law, and they want to do what they're supposed to do, and in some cases, they're just not hearing the information. Veronica's amazing. The Office of Special Programs works really hard, but yet I think we could do more in terms of neighbor outreach and just communication between the industry and neighbors. So I'm happy to take anyone's card or give you mine so we can have that conversation.
Great, thank you.
So, no, yeah, thank you, Jocelyn. So know that we are focused on that. So Jeff and I happen to be the subcommittee for the city council on cannabis, on all things cannabis. And communication, better communication is part of what we're focused on. And we are also looking for, we're putting together programs where there will be more direct communication between people in the industry and the neighborhoods that they're working in. And that came up in 2 of our meetings today, and we will continue on that. Again, as we mentioned at the top of this meeting, we're about to roll out a new ordinance and a lot of new recommendations on doing just the things that you mentioned and asked of us. So, thank you. Did you want to add to that?
No, the only other thing is there is a working group at 1PS on cannabis, and we can connect you with those folks so you can meet with them. I think that would be really helpful. And that's why we're not going to just bring the ordinance to council. We did a stakeholders meeting before we started drafting. We'll do another one. But I think that would be really helpful to have that dialogue and hear directly what the issues people in the neighborhoods are hearing. So thank you.
Thanks so much. David Friedman.
Just like a council member.
Yeah,
David is
who
our
Jeff just
unofficial council
whispered,
member.
he's sort of an unofficial
Council member.
councilman for all
All
the
the
work.
different things he does. So thank you, David.
Thank you very much. It's a delight to come up here and speak with you without using my New York Minute voice and timing remarks to the nanosecond with my phone clock.
Believe me, David, we love it too.
Thank you. I want to echo, wearing also a Sustainability Commission or hat, echo a few of the remarks that Commissioner Miller just made. We'd be delighted to have a study session. I believe the last one was in June 2016. So just as you have an annual study session with Measure J Oversight Commission, often with Planning Commission, I think that'd be a good idea, really, to make it a sort of an annual appointment. So. That would be great. 2 things that I have mentioned to Patrick and we're working on, but I also wanted to bring that to your attention. I serve as the Commission's liaison to Desert Water Agency and focused on the city's water conservation efforts. Today, DWA opened its very, very robust and generous rebate program. So I want to encourage those of you in the public to take a look at the DWA website. It's $2 per square foot. It now allows rebates for not only front yards, which was the case before, but also backyards and side yards.
You're talking about the grass program.
Yes, exactly, the turf conversion.
A little late for me.
And there's no limit, so I want to encourage people to apply for that. There's also a rebate for high-efficiency water, washing machines, yeah, and for sprinklers for your gardens. But the real point that I wanted to make is that the rebate program actually includes also the city. So a government project, i.e. a grass conversion that the city might have for maintenance or parks and rec, also would be eligible for a rebate, and that's $3 per square foot. So that is available money for the city, and I do want to encourage folks and staff to look into that, and Patrick is following up with that to see what the city can do in terms of its own projects and take advantage of that rebate program. And second remark, and I know an area that Commissioner Miller and the other members of Waste Reduction are looking at. When I was here for the NUSA conference back in May, inside here in the convention center, you've probably seen recycling bins for trash and recycling. That's great. But when we had 2 receptions on the east lawn and the west lawn, I noticed that there was no place to take my beer bottle. It was just sort of some temporary thing. So now that AEG is in place, if you could potentially, and staff could work with that to make sure that any events also on the outside, there are facilities for recycling of what is recyclable. And those are my remarks.
David, thank you, and I know staff heard your comments, and Amy, I'm going to ask if you and Denise could do a big public awareness on this rebate program. This sounds amazing, and I know the public would love if you could push that out in your reports and also on social media. That would be awesome. David, I'd love you to do a piece to the Valley Voice as well. I'm sure they would love to have that.
Great.
Thank
And
you
just
so much.
one other thought, just on boards and commissions, because it's come up in some of the interviews with other commissions, not just sustainability, is, for example, when David was taking a leadership role in drafting our solar for new residential construction ordinance probably 2 years ago, Councilmember Roberts and I worked with David directly during the process. And so if you're a board or commissioner and there's an issue, reach out to any of us, right, to work with you, because that's the best way to make sure it gets tied into council, is if we know about it, right? And so we can do a better job, obviously, with staff, making sure we know and get updates. Maybe we should get the minutes in the consent calendar from boards and commissions so we have that information, because I think that would be helpful as well. But, you know, just see who's available, who pull in and meet with you, because that way you already have a council member engaged in it. And so just an idea, and there are other boards and commissioners represented here that might be really helpful.
Get us excited, and we bring it right to council. Angie Lenz. Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
Welcome.
Nice to meet you all. Is that Sabrina?
No, that's not Sabrina, and Sabrina's not here tonight.
She's not, oh, I was gonna meet her tonight, but anyways.
By the way, you can walk into City Hall
And
pretty
she's the
much
first-
every day and meet Sabrina, who is kind of the heartbeat of City Hall, right?
First person you meet when you walk in the door.
And there isn't a nicer person.
She was an absolute sweetheart to me. Anyways,
Good to hear. Thank you.
I have a couple of things, you know, I'm not a dog person. And I don't go hiking much. But the other week when I heard that we're not allowing dogs to go up on the dog trails, really, really, really upset me. Because I grew up here in the desert. I was born in Snow Creek. This is my home.
Very cool.
And when I would take off with my boyfriends, we'd go camp out in the desert. And I wouldn't go with them unless they had a dog. Because the dogs would protect us from snakes, from coyotes, from whatever. And, you know, when you don't allow, you know, and then I called the police department, they said, oh, well, it's just they're not allowing pit bulls. So it needs to be specified what kind of dogs are not allowed on the trails. Because dogs protect us from mountain lions, snakes, anything. And if we don't allow the dogs on the trails, you're putting everybody at risk who hikes or who camps out in the desert and the mountains. So that's something you need to think about. And the next thing. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have this, in Boston, I just saw that they had a straight pride parade. And I think that, you know, and because our children are so confused, We have the statue right outside of the Girls and Boys Club and the library on Sunrise. And it's very weird. And I don't like that statue, and I never have liked that statue. And I think that statue needs to come down. They've taken the cross down, but they've erected that statue of two swinging thingies. And that needs to come down, and we need to have a straight pride parade. Oh, yeah, we do. Oh, our children are so confused. Our children are so confused.
So I want, because we are going to be respectful of everyone here, and I will respond on straight pride, because gay pride wasn't created to have a party and celebrate people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. It was a matter of survival for people who are prosecuted and persecuted, and they couldn't even congregate together. So wait, I'm going to finish. I let you speak. It's my turn. And this city is going to stand up for everyone's rights and everyone's diversity, and that includes based on race, religion, sexual orientation, or anything else. And yes, across on public property is very different, because we're not going to promote one religion over another. We're going to accept everyone's religion, or people with no religion, equally. And that's what
Okay.
we're going to do in our city. And as,
Okay.
let me just finish one thing. On the dog issue, I do want the city manager to explain, as someone who does love dogs and likes to go hiking with my dog, the reasons, which trails they apply to. If you can provide some information on that, I think that'd be really helpful for the public.
And Angie, stand by. You don't have to sit
Yeah.
down. We'll let you finish, but let's take one issue at a time.
So dogs on the trails, banned. We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to do it. We did not want to do it. Believe us, I don't know you'll find a city that loves our pets and our dogs more. That was a requirement of the multi-species plan, and probably we should have complied with this long ago. As a matter of fact, if you remember, Measure J insisted that they pay for the little dog, the bags and the waste cans, and they paid to have them cleaned a few times a week. So that's how much we sort of are invested in our pets. That being said, it was brought to our attention, we reviewed the rules, we looked at them closely, and we had to do it. So and Marcus, it's certainly on the South Lycan Trail. Which other trails are affected?
It's actually all the trails that are in the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto Mountains. There's already some trails that have signs restricting dogs. And there's an item potentially on the next council agenda that really goes into detail on the background of this this restriction. And frankly, we don't have an option not to restrict dogs on the trails. It's all related to protecting the bighorn sheep, which the species plan was adopted in part to do.
So that's to protect photographers from not being able to take photos of the bighorn sheep. And if somebody gets lost in the trails, the police and the fire departments cannot take their dogs on the trails, otherwise they're going to get a citation.
No, that would be different. That's
Oh, that's different.
Search and rescue is a different
That's
issue.
a different situation. Okay, let's get that. Okay, so, okay, so this straight pride thing. And then with the libraries, I'm telling you, this is a thing on the internet. These divas or these men who dress like women and go and tell stories to our little children. Okay.
Okay.
That is no good.
Yeah. So Angie,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to do what I said I wouldn't do. You know what? I'm not gonna get into a whole conversation with you on this, but you are alone in this, and in your feelings on that. And what people do, going in and reading stories to our children, whether they're dressed in men's clothes or women's clothes or anything else.
In the Bible,
is a
it
great
is an
thing.
abomination for a man to dress
Okay.
like a woman.
Thank you. Please.
Well done.
It's an
Angie, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
It's an
Angie.
abomination.
Angie,
Okay.
It's
Thank
an
you.
you're not being,
abomination.
Angie,
Okay, we're going to need to ask you to leave.
Angie, that's not respectful, and we're going to
I'm
ask
telling
you
you,
to, you're going to sit down.
God made this earth.
You're going to sit down or leave.
God
You
made
can
this
sit
earth.
down or leave.
Okay, you're going to sit down or
We're
leave.
done.
Okay, we're done. We're done
We're
with
done.
that.
Thank
We're
you.
done with that. Thank you. Okay, so Richard, I am going to butcher your name. It's Kanbesian? Richard Kanbesian? Is that you?
Okay.
I'm sorry if I destroyed your name there.
That's okay. Conbagian's good enough.
Okay.
That's pretty close. Not bad.
Just a couple of things. It's not really, this isn't going to be world-changing. It's just kind of as a long-term resident or a,
We want to hear everything.
okay. And it's just a
Well,
couple of things.
not everything.
As a long-term
good to hear
resident, almost 50 years, I've seen the town grow. It's been very quiet way back in the 70s, where this time of year you wouldn't see this many people in town.
Yes, true.
It's changed a lot. My street used to be really quiet. We could let the kids go out in the street and play, but not anymore. Traffic is obviously up. People speeding up and down the street. It's not the quiet street that it used to be. It's also a through street. Now, I know there's probably things that the city could do. You could put a stop sign, not a stop sign, a street light. You could have more law enforcement or traffic enforcement, which is what I'm actually getting towards. I would like to see more traffic enforcement, regardless of whether you're a resident or whether you're a tourist. Yes, we need the money, but no, we don't need people, like was mentioned before, talking on the phone, not paying attention, and not really driving as though they're possessed. I want to see more traffic control. There's too many people speeding, blowing through stop signs, blowing through red lights. It's, we see what happens the last couple of weeks where people are killed. People are not driving with their head on their shoulders. Enough said there. The other thing what I'd like to mention is the fact that I believe there might be city ordinance enforcement with some of the city ordinances in Palm Springs, where people who live on corners, when you come to a corner, you can't see down the street. And if I remember correctly, and maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but it seemed as though people who lived on corners, they had to have some sort of a setback with their shrubs, their walls, et cetera.
You're right.
And it's just a matter of time before, as I get older, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to stick my nose out too far, and someone's going to be right there. And also, with the cars going faster than normal, or faster than the local speed limit, something's going to happen. Another situation that I have kind of seen where I get to drive or do things in the city is Tockwitz Way, where the city has, in good faith, put up the center barrier and done something nice. But yet now it's kind of getting too high, it's too tall, and when you come out to, say, from Hermosa onto Tockwitz, you can't see a car coming down the street heading east on Tockwitz. It's just a matter of time before something's going to happen. And then obviously the answer to that is going to be we'll put a traffic light there, which basically slows everybody down and creates more aggravation for people. I'd like to see more traffic enforcement, and I'd like to see more of the code enforcement where I think there's even an instance where I won't mention it, but people need to go out, the code enforcement needs to go out and look at it, where there's actually bushes and trees that block fire hydrants. If you drove by there, you probably wouldn't know there was a fire hydrant there. Maybe there's a blue dot, I'm not sure. But things like that are important, that people feel safe when they're driving, and that, we don't have a whole lot of craziness. And it's not world-changing, life-changing, it's just things that
potentially
I've seen as a
life-changing for
long
people,
time
so-
that I kind of see it as things are changing in the city, but I'd like to also see more enforcement, more traffic enforcement. You know, if you're speeding, you get a ticket. I don't care if you're a tourist or whether you're a local. If I screw up, hey, I'll be the first one to admit that I deserved it. But we need to get more traffic
You
enforcement.
know, Richard, thank you. Actually, those are all good and important points. And I agree that we need to monitor the corners better. I'm going to ask our police chief to come up. Traffic and speed have come up a number of times. And Chief, if you don't mind giving us an update from your perspective and also on how how your force is dealing with increased traffic levels with increased tourism.
Do I need to be here?
No,
you
not
can
if
hang
you're
out.
done.
You can
And,
hang out.
and if you're, and Richard, if you're not done, you certainly can speak some more. I just thought while this had come up a few times, the chief was probably, has some answers for us.
Yes, absolutely. You know, traffic is a hot topic for at least the last couple of years throughout the city. Staffing has been an issue for a while. We are almost fully staffed. I have 8 officers that are in training, in which I will probably transfer at least 1 or 2 to the traffic unit in addition to what we have, and they'll all be deployable at the end of the year. It takes literally about a year and a half from the onset of the hiring process to get an officer out there functioning on his own or on her own, and we will have 8 additional officers available at the last week of this year. So besides that, we do have grants that we get every year that is specific to traffic, in which we bring people in on overtime, whether it be distracted driving, running red lights, stop signs, and each of these grants are specific to specific type of violations, and we do get those grants every year. We did get authorized by you, the council, to have a social media specialist. We do get complaints often right to our traffic unit in regards to areas, times, and days, traffic problems. We deploy our officers to those areas and issue citations, but what we're going to do with this new social media position is actually promote the actual activity that our officers are doing within the traffic unit. Because usually when we get a complaint, we give that feedback to that complaining person in regards to the outcome, but that's the only person that actually gets the information. So with this new social media position, we're actually going to get those complaints, advertise those complaints, and also show what we're doing to address those complaints and the outcome via our social media platform with this specialist.
Chief, while you're here with us, can you give us maybe a snapshot or a picture of where we are? It seems like we're seeing a lot more serious traffic accidents, and I don't know if that is a coincidence, but are accidents up? Are you seeing an increase in traffic problems and issues?
We are seeing an increase, and it's an increase across the board, not only in traffic violations, traffic fatalities, but for example, assaults on police officers. That's increased year over year. Just as an example, we've had a 650% increase on threats on police officers. Here's an example: assaults and battery, actually battering an officer, not trying to resist and get away, literally fighting an officer and injuring an officer. From July 17 to 2018, we had 3 for an entire year. From July of 18 to 2019, 23. So where they're flat out taking it to the officers and injuring the officers. I have about 4 or 5 officers that are on long-term injury leave right now because of these type of assaults. So it's just the behavior of a lot of people is very reckless. So obviously, when it comes to traffic violations, it comes to the pecking order of priority. It calls for service. When we have violent people assaulting officers, we got to get those people off the street before we start addressing traffic. But we do realize there's a traffic issue, and as I explained from the onset, we're going to have 8 additional officers that are going to be available to deploy at the end of the year.
Chief, thank you. Are there any burning questions for the chief while we've got him up here? Sir, stand up and we'll get to you as well. You come up, or we can bring you a mic as well, so everybody can hear you.
From what I've seen, I used to live in San Francisco and in LA. They drive a lot differently than locals do here. So if they're coming in for, let's say, a weekend event, they drive no differently than they do back home. What's the statistics on these accidents and things that happen? Is it because are they locals, or are they people who are visiting? Because we can't change the way people behave outside their environment.
And Chief, maybe we'll address that. And sir, you had a question as well. You come on up.
Can you wait one sec?
He's-
Just use the mic.
Anthony's going
Yeah.
to give you a mic.
Thank you.
Hi. Chief, so what can the city do to prevent some of these accidents? What can the city do to prevent them, I guess? Even though I understand that there's more assaults on police officers, which is terrible, the city can be proactive if you and your men, women, can give us a pecking order of what the city should do.
And that's a great question. I think where it starts is the education piece, is keeping our community and our valley informed. And it starts off with us as a department informing the community consistently as far as the problem areas, how it's being addressed, and where we're consistently having problems in certain intersections. And that goes not only with the police department, but our city's public information officer, and also our 1PS organization. We're one of the few cities, if not the only city in the entire state of California, has 50 organized neighborhoods. We have a tremendous structure in place to keep each other informed throughout the city. So it's sharing that information through all those organizations to keeping in mind, that's only gonna touch the people that are here full-time. We're a resort destination where we have roughly a different audience every 72, 96 hours. So it's tough to reach that crowd that's coming here for 2 or 3 days, and then we have a different visitor.
The other thing that I might be able to add to this and might be helpful to answer part of your question is, and it's been asked by council members on the traffic hotspots, we have intersections. One of the things that we're doing, and I'm going to give the microphone to Marcus in a moment, he can explain, we've been working on grants which we've secured, that over the next 2 years, probably 30 intersections, and we'll be taking this to council in the near future, about 30 intersections will be converted to protected, which means you will have that green arrow, and you can only turn on those green arrows. So that, we think, will help somewhat. But Marcus, if you could just explain that briefly.
Yeah, I'm also the city engineer, and so this city, we don't probably promote it enough, has been very diligent and aggressive at pursuing state and federal grants on a number of projects, including what's called the Highway Safety Improvement Program. It's a federal grant provided through the state, provides 100% grants for projects that specifically provide a cost-benefit improvement to addressing traffic issues. So we evaluated all of our traffic collisions and the data at all of our major intersections, and were successful in 2017 in getting a $3 million grant to address upgrades to like 18 or 19 signals. The following year, we submitted the same type of grant for more signals, and we were successful in getting $3 million additional money for that. We submitted a third grant this last year, and we're waiting, I think we're still waiting to find out, but we should be successful there. We also were successful with CVAG. They had a traffic safety grant for the first time that they solicited proposals from cities in the Coachella Valley. We got 6 million of the 10 million that they were offering in projects to promote, pedestrian, bicycle safety, vehicle safety. Part of that is the Indian Two-Way. So with $2 million from CVAG is going towards upgrading all of those signals that had to be converted anyway for the two-way traffic. And in the future, we'll be addressing upgrading signals along Palm Canyon Drive, including adding streetlights down near where the hacienda was, where we had some unfortunate fatalities of jaywalkers. So we've been very diligent and have a number of projects that are going to move forward to improve traffic safety, including all-way crosswalks on 4 major intersections on Palm Canyon, like some of the big cities. So there's a lot of work happening that will come forward in the next few years.
And we're getting the new the traffic signals at Mira Est, and we're getting a new one at Escuela.
Yes, that's correct. So again, because of some unfortunate accidents that resulted in fatalities, Via Mira Est and Vista Chino is Caltrans Highway 111, and it's really Caltrans' responsibility to address those issues. But we took the initiative and petitioned the state, and they actually forked up some money. And the advantage to us taking the initiative was we'll be able to get those signals in faster than if we waited for the state to do something, because frankly, Highway 111 is a very low priority for the state through all the highways that they administer. So those contracts have been awarded. The delay on those, unfortunately, is just it takes a very long time for signal poles to be delivered and furnished. So those are coming in the next, by the end of the year.
Thank you, Marcus. Yes, sir.
I didn't know that I would address this, but since you're talking about grants for roadways, can you put in a grant, please, for Indian Avenue where it floods out, that we could build a bridge or something there? Or can you also put in a grant for Vistacino by, as we're going into Cathedral City, please?
Yeah,
Because
you,
I know that's going to take maybe 10 years to get a grant, but
Well,
can you please start writing it?
You're asking the right guy, and this is, obviously, this is a subject that comes up regularly. Indian is a great source of pain for all of us. And Marcus, take it away.
Sure. So we're already ahead of you. We actually submitted an application and were awarded a $100 million grant to build a new bridge on Vistacino, and that was, 5, 6 years ago. So we're well on our way. We've already cleared the environmental process, and we're in right-of-way acquisition and final design. I can't promise a date when we'll actually move into construction. We did submit a similar grant to the state for a bridge on Indian Canyon. The problem with Indian Canyon, Gene Autry, is that whole Whitewater River is a 100-year floodplain. So imagine a bridge extending the whole length of those roads crossing the Whitewater River.
Which would cost what, Marcus?
$300 million each. So we did submit an application for Indian Canyon Drive, and the state looked at us and said, well, hold on, we gave you $100 million for Vistacino, and you have 6 other bridge projects with another $50 million that we're working on, which include widening Ramon Road, widening East Palm Canyon, replacing the old bridge on South Palm Canyon over by Kentucky Fried Chicken. So we've been, again, very diligent in getting grants where we can for these projects. But the reality is the state simply said they only get $300 million a year from the feds for the entire state for bridges. And it's a competitive project. And so unfortunately, we'll be looking for any alternative we can, but it's a big ticket price for building those bridges. But there will be a bridge on Vistacino.
We'll eventually get to Indian. Richard, if you wanted to finish your comment, with the chief, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to ask the chief, as far as crime reporting is concerned, if you see something, you're supposed to say something. Now, if it's not an emergency type of situation, is that something that I, as a citizen, have to press charges or, to get someone to come out and take a look at it? Or is it something that an officer has to see it to, for someone to be arrested? How does that work? Or, what's the procedure?
Absolutely. You do not have to think that you have to wait for someone to actually be arrested to report something. You can just call our department, and you can remain anonymous if you choose to, and we will go out and look into the matter, because you may be witnessing something that either is a crime or not, but it may be suspicious, but it may be the missing piece for something that had occurred a couple doors down, or an unsolved piece that we need for a crime that we're investigating. So yes, see something, say something. That is the message that we've been pushing for a couple years now, because of some of the laws that have been watered down in the state, and the punishments have been minimized. We are trying to really push and organize with our 50 organized neighborhoods to prevent it before it occurs, because when it occurs, there's not very much punishment. So see something, say something, so we can address things at the lowest levels.
In other words, let them know. They want to know. Thank you, Larry, and thank you very much, Chief, for coming out. Larry McFadden, we're going to try to get through. We're going to end in about 15 minutes, but I want to try to get through these last cards. So, Larry, are you still here, Larry McFadden? Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Larry McFadden, yes. That's okay. Come on up, Larry.
Compared to the other situations that have been given to you, mine's relatively simple. I live up in Las Palmas. There's a house on Potencio. They keep changing the numbers on it, but currently it's 954. I bought my house in, 25 years ago, and we went through the Great Raccoon Wars, we called it, because the house had no roof on it. Finally, I think we called the city enough, they come out, and made him take out a sliding glass door, put on the garage door, and put Tecatile on the roof, which is the worst job I've ever seen. So I don't know where he got these people. Anyway, this has been going on now for 20, 25 years. Every year I call mosquito abatement to come over because mosquitoes in the jacuzzi or in the pool. They finally made him put a cover on both of them. And you may not be interested in all this, but I'm sort of giving you some detail. And he put it on, but now, of course, it's gotten aged and ripped, and it may as well not be there. The jacuzzi is so full of rot and stink. I live next door, which is why I'm very familiar with this problem. And homeless people keep coming in. I have nothing against the homeless people, but it's kind of not what you want to see next door when you don't know who they are. And so I'll go over and say, excuse me, this is my property. What are you doing on it? Oh, well, I didn't know you owned it. Why don't you fix it up? That's a good question. I'm working on it. Because I call the owner all the time in Brentwood, and he doesn't give a damn. I've called him for 20 years, and he doesn't even say thank you. So that gives you an idea.
Larry, can I ask you a question? Has this house been vacant all those years?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one we can deal with directly. We will send enforcement out. You said the address is 954?
954.
Potencio.
And Natalie, who used to be your compliance officer, we became great friends over the years because I call her so damn much. And she used to come out and give them a warning and they'd do something, but it was never anything of significance. Now, 2 people showed up there a week ago. Well, start with 2 months ago, we had 3 felons in there, and we had every cop in town over there trying to get them in. Now 2 people have shown up and said, well, the owner told them if they cleaned it up, they could live their rent-free till they got it clean, and then they were going to pay $1,800 a month. I said, I don't care about that. You know, I want to know what you're doing here. Well, we're cleaning it up. So they've cut down trees, they've taken the locks off the doors.
So Larry, here's what I can...
It's blighted.
Here's what I can tell you. We will follow up on that house, and if you want a response on what's going on there, Marcus, should he contact you or enforcement? They've got it, but if Larry wants a response to what's going on there.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
If
Okay.
you'll give Dr. Reddy your number, he will get right back to you on that.
Okay, and I want to thank you guys for doing this. I have somebody who's been in your position before in Marin County. I understand it. I thank you. It's not easy, but I appreciate your openness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the input.
Thank you. Wayne Gottlieb, are you still here?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Great.
Hello, my name is Wayne Gottlieb, resident of Palm Springs for 35 years. I live in the tennis club area, and I'm really concerned about that church that's there. It's been a blight for many years, and can we just bulldoze it? No, I love the structure. I love it's a beautiful piece of property. I just would like that roof taken off, and at least the owner of it lives in Malibu. He's a pain in the, and he doesn't really pay attention to anything. And the bungalows behind it, I don't know, could we put a big tarp over it that's pretty, or something, please?
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
the update, yeah. Do you want to do this, or should we do it?
Go ahead.
We can give you a status on that property.
Yeah, so city council needs to do a review on that project before November. But that being said, the developer has submitted a new proposal for a new development. It's modified, so that is now in the planning process, correct, Flynn? So it's matriculating through the planning process, but in the meantime, they have an obligation to secure the site, which the police is working on them to do. As you notice, they've tidied up the fence in the last week, and some of that, the covering on the fence that was down, that's been replaced. So, but the larger issue is, what's going to have to occur ultimately is a project has to occur that council can agree to, and if council likes that project, they will extend the hotel incentive plan or not. But if none of that works out, within the next 6 months to 8 months, we'll be in court, potentially going down a road of looking for court orders to either get it into the hands of a developer who could do something, or some sort of appropriate action of demolition. But that's the extreme. The hope is to work with the developer. We intend to work with the developer. He's submitted a new plan, but I guess what I could say is it can't continue to go on year after year. So that's sort of the general answer, and we'll let.
I think that's great, Doc, thank you.
How many plans can he submit? If the one that he has right now fails, can he go submit another plan that could delay and get him more time?
So the answer to that question is yes, but as Dr. Reddy said, we can start enforcement proceedings on the blight of the property itself. We've given him time, he's a legitimate developer, we know who he is, we know his history, and he's spent probably millions trying to come up with a project that makes sense
okay.
there. So we are very aware of that property, nobody likes the way it looks, and we're gonna take this project seriously, and if not, as Dr. Reddy said, you will see some enforcement on the condition of that property.
So the developer is diligently trying right now? He's not just some,
That's correct. He's
Okay.
he's formally in the planning process.
okay, thank you.
And actually, Flynn, the actual planning commission will look at this approximately when? October.
So if you pay attention to, and it's on our website, and we can also get you on our email list to know what's coming up on our planning commission agendas, you can actually follow that and come and comment on that as well.
Thank
And
you.
your comments would be appreciated there for the planning commission. They want to hear from neighbors and residents on issues like that.
Okay, one other
Make
thought.
it quick, because I want
Okay,
to
okay,
get some
sorry.
other people here.
On the, I have a couple of offices on Palm Canyon that I have driveways that come out and to go onto Palm Canyon. And the cars that are allowed to park within like 4 feet from my driveways, they're legally parked, everything is perfect, except, like somebody else mentioned, you really have to inch out slowly. Otherwise, the traffic on Palm Canyon, not that it's going fast, it's just they don't see you. Okay, so it will hurt me to ask you guys to make if there's driveways coming out on Palm Canyon, maybe extend that red line so there's less
So Wayne, what I'm
parking.
going to ask
Well,
you to do,
actually-
that's very personal.
Yeah, let me do this. Actually, I
I'd
know.
like him to, talk to Marcus
Okay.
offline on this, yeah.
Well, exactly, I know exactly where he's talking about. That is a dangerous corner, and we can extend that red curb, actually. They actually park in front of that building on that curve? We can fix that.
So Wayne, stay in touch with Dr. Reddy or Marcus, and they can work with you directly on that. Is it Kelly or Keely Meenan? Come on up. We'll try to get through all these cards. We only have 3 left.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for having me. I am
course.
a dog lover. And Palm Springs is very disappointing as in the condition of our dog park. And everybody knows that it's very obvious. I'm the girl that started the petition to get the dog park done. And I heard, Jeff Kors, you showed up one morning, the one day that I didn't go. And I heard Dr. Reddy did. I would love to hear what is going to be happening, because I know the dog park is going to be closed for 2 months. And,
Sure.
yeah.
So.
There's a plan.
So the plan
I
is,
know.
right, the big issue is mud, and there's a big drainage issue there.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's reseeded every year at the same time, the decision was made, that's the time to fix the drainage, but that is set to happen. So in the fall, coming up probably in October, all the drainage is going to get updated and repaired, so we don't have all the mud and those issues
Okay.
moving forward. So that is in the works, it's already planned.
Okay.
So I think that's going to make a big difference.
Okay, that's great. That is a small thing with all the dog people that go there every single day. I go there at 5:30 every morning to clean it up for everybody to, for our dogs don't get sick. We desperately need more seating. We need these rocks to be changed because the old people are falling on the rocks. The dogs can't run over the rocks. The rocks aren't even smooth for the dogs to run on. They're sharp. They have sharp edges. And they break my dog's nails and his bottom of his paws all the time.
Yes.
And I mean, we have Banning Veterinarian Hospital that has vouched for everything that I have done in this petition. Are you guys going to change the rocks?
Yes, so we talked about changing it to smaller gravel. Some people wanted us to get rid of and make all that grass, but that is what keeps the trees alive. But we did, at that, when we were there,
Okay.
talked about moving that to smaller gravel, because
Okay.
yes, I would have the same issue with my dogs on those rocks. So,
Okay, and
yes.
even the bigger rocks that are right on the fences from in the small
So-
dog side and the big dog side, there's bigger rocks there. I would like those removed too, because my dog breaks his little nails all the time, and because the dog park isn't maintained properly, and I talked to Reddy about this, it's gonna go up to 3 days a week, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And when does that happen?
That will be within the next 2 weeks, so it'll be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Perfect. And I've told everybody at the dog park about that, and
Yeah.
everybody's very excited. The next thing I would like to know is about faucets. Because the dog park is not kept and maintained as well as it should be, and we are a dog-loving city.
We are.
I mean, yeah, and our dog park is just not up to standards, even compared to the other Coachella dog parks. So my other question is, can we get a misting system for the patrons of the dog park? Because we are a desert city, and for us not even to offer that, or even to offer like little bathing pools for the dogs in a desert is, you know, not good. And so can we get a misting system for the patrons? It's extremely hot. And what about the water wells as well? What, you know, for the water holes, for the humans and for the dogs? Are those going to be replaced? One went into Ruth Hardy Park, but not into our dog
Right,
park.
so we put one in Ruth Hardy, and we're going to spend, a month or so to see how well it works. If it's working well, we're going to add those throughout the city.
Okay, now, there was a dog park I went to yesterday, just because I'm very now well-versed in the dog parks. My other thing is, with that, in a dog, there's one right behind of College of the Desert. They just put one in there. That water well seems to be very good, because you can also place the dishes there to fill. So it'd be better for old people as well as for us.
Okay, great.
And my last and final question is, can we get faucets put into the dog parks? Every other dog park has faucets. It will help it stay clean, and for us to be able to wash down the pee and things. It is a desert, and it just dries, and then it causes disease and also insects.
Okay. Can we figure that out, David?
On the faucet, Stacy, are you here? Come on up, Stacy.
I love
Stacy is
meeting
our
everybody finally. I've been
maintenance,
emailing.
facilities maintenance director. She can fill you in on the faucets.
Okay.
Well, first I wanted to let you know that actually on the exterior of the dog park this morning, we did replace the fountain, the human pet fountain.
Stacy?
Oh, the human pet fountain was replaced this morning.
Okay, on the outside of the dog park?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There's, we're going through and evaluating one per park, but the outside one seemed to be the one that was in the most need right now, and there already is a plan in place to replace the one on the interior as well.
Okay, on which side, though? I mean, we have two different sides.
Right now, we're looking at the large,
Okay.
and then we'll move into the small, and then up to the Demuth large, and then potentially each park from there on out.
Okay. Now, there are a total of 3 water wells in our dog park. I mean, I am going to push and push. I've started a Facebook page. I've done petitions. I'm going to social media on this just because, I mean, I want to get this done, and I don't want to keep asking for it. So
Keely, can I ask one thing of you? There's a few people who've been waiting hours.
sorry, of
You're
course.
getting into specifics. Will you go offline with Stacy?
Absolutely.
And let her answer these questions?
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's a plan and it's being implemented, but I want to allow some other people to come up.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate
Thank you
the
for
feedback.
bringing
We're
this
pleased
to
to
us.
talk.
James Carver, are you still here? Come on
Right.
up.
I believe my question has been somewhat answered, but I just want to voice concern and encouragement on the lighting of South Palm Canyon between Mesquite and the Curve. It is so dark there at night. And with the lighting of the palms north of Mesquite, with that new development at Cody Place, it lights up the sidewalk, the street. They've done a nice job there. The palms, we have no street lights on South Palm Canyon. But if we light the palms, then that will provide some lighting to the sidewalk and the street. So I just heard something about it, and I just want to voice encouragement.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Alexis? And I'm sorry, I can't read your name. Oh, it's Ortega.
Yeah.
Okay, hi.
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 So I'll be really brief. This doesn't require an answer. I just want to touch back on a point that I think it was Richard who talked about lots of people coming in, right? We'll have lots of hotels. We'll have a new arena. We also have College of the Desert, and we need folks to work in those places. And specifically for College of the Desert, you know, mostly students will be there, and where will they live, right? So with regards to the traffic issue, the more that we can do as a city to make sure that there are affordable places to live, because there are a lot of developments happening right now, and they're inaccessible for a lot of people. So doesn't need an answer. I know that's like a lot of work. But something that came up that I was thinking about with the two-way conversion for Indian, right now there's a bike share on the westernmost lane. So I'm curious, like, what's going to happen to that? In downtown Palm Springs, for those people that don't know, who aren't bikers or like skateboarders, there are signs that say that you can't bike on the sidewalks. You bike in the streets, in the shared lanes. I actually saw a parking enforcement guy get into it with a biker who felt like the parking enforcement wasn't respecting his right to be in the entire lane as a biker. So having biking lanes downtown in the streets is our current solution. It's not the best solution, but that's what we have. So I'm just curious what's going to happen to the Sharrow lane when that two-way conversion happens on Indian.
Sure.
Marcus, you want to?
Can you update?
We are keeping them. I'd have to go back and look at the plans to, I don't know if we're putting the Sharrows on the new southbound lane because they're already on the southbound lanes on Palm Canyon, but the Sharrows should be maintained on the right-hand northbound lane, if that makes sense.
So we're keeping them?
We're keeping them, yeah, and putting in bike lanes is really not an option because we just don't have the real estate for it on Indian, because otherwise, we could if we sacrificed the on-street parking. So that's the challenge of trying to figure out who wins in that fight, so.
Thank you. On our last speaker card is Aaron Fenzi. Are you still here? You waited it out. Thank you, sir. You can come right up to the podium if you like. You want the microphone? Sure.
I like to face the people, you know?
Okay.
By the way, I wasn't going to come up and say anything because I've only been living in the area for about a year and a half, right?
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm from a little village called Jersey City, New Jersey, right outside of New York City. So if any New Yorkers are in here,
heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, you might have heard of it. I wasn't going to say anything, but that woman Angie kind of inspired me to get up here because I'm a straight guy, and I'm also a raging liberal and an atheist. So not to kiss the LGBT community's ass, because I'm sure you don't need it kissed. This is my son, Jake, and
Hi, Jake.
Hey, Jake.
I'm an ally of you guys, and I'm raising this guy to be an ally of you guys. So,
Nice way to end.
yeah. Yeah, just thought you should know. By the way, for all of the small business owners, I was going to marinate on this a little, but I have a vision to promote this area because I was actually forced to move out here because his mother somehow won a court case that allowed her to kidnap him and take him to another state. And now she's in California with her husband, whom she left to be with me, had him, then got back together with. Now they wanted to move to California from Georgia. Long story, I'm not going to bore you with it or anything like that. So I had to give up basically everybody and everything I knew right outside of New York City. So what I want to do, and if I understand correctly, there's a show somewhere, you know, visiting Palm Springs or something like that. Do I have that correct? It's online somewhere?
Well, there's some reality shows that are being filmed here.
All right. Well, I have one in mind where this little guy and I, we go to different small businesses and we interview the owners, or if you have a restaurant, we go in and eat there, and we just focus on the two of us, and we talk to the owners, we talk to the employees, something like that. If you're interested in that, my name on Instagram is Mr. Thursday Night, MR Thursday Night. Twitter, same thing. I'm a pro wrestler, so that's where Mr. Thursday Night comes from. So we can work together to get something done for the community and the area. I know there were concerns that the area is getting too packed, but my motives are a little selfish, because I want my friends and family to come move here too, because I am sick of staring at my walls in my house. All right, so that's something else. My last thing is, maybe this might be my foray into politics, because if the last 3 years have told me anything, is that any nitwit who hosts a reality show and is from Queens, New York, anybody can be the president. So there you have it. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for the perfect ending.
Aaron, that
to the
could
night.
not have been a better ending. Anyway, thank you all. Thank our wonderful staff for being here tonight with you.
And everyone at the Convention Center for helping out.
The wonderful
thank
Convention
you for
Center.
coming.
Thank you all for coming tonight.